I'm sure most of us can remember where we were and what we were doing when the government announced the lockdown for COVID-19 pandemic. For many of us, we have heard of SARS and Ebola in our lifetime, but neither of those pandemics have reached the height of what COVID-19 has. It's in our cities, it's in our homes, and it's potentially in our families. Yet what makes COVID-19 so terrifying is how many people around us are actually feeling its impact.
We've all experienced the fears and trepidations of what the virus has brought. So how could it get any worse, right? Well, if history is any indication, we may be in for a turbulent second wave of the virus. Doctors and scientists are warning that if we can't maintain some form of social distancing, as well as gain control over the spread of the virus, a second wave of the virus may be inevitable. So today on Survive in Real Life, we tackle how to survive the potential second wave of COVID-19 with these 3 survival tips. Understand the history of pandemics, strengthen our immune systems, and survive in Lockdown 2.0.
The survival tip is to understand how and why pandemics have occurred throughout our history. Pandemics are not new. In fact, they've plagued humanity for hundreds of years. What I never imagined, though, is that in 2020, in an age of modern medicine and advanced technology, that we would actually be going through a pandemic of our own.
We're now a part of history. Years from now, students will be studying and attempting to comprehend how a whole world, imagine 8 billion people, had to be locked inside their homes for fear of contracting a potentially deadly virus. As we were stuck inside our homes, we began to question the very nature of the virus and the global pandemic. Questions like, how did pandemics start and spread? And how could we not have contained the virus began to arise?
For these questions, we must delve into our past where it all began. Historians have found that the people of ancient civilizations believed that spirits and gods inflicted the plagues and diseases that destroyed their societies. With the eventuality of science, it was discovered that diseases and illnesses were actually caused by many different factors, such as animals, tainted water, and trading with people with whom previous contact was non-existent.
Diseases and illnesses have affected the human population for thousands of years, but it wasn't until the world's population began to live in more urban settings that they truly began to spread. The larger our cities became, the more we traded with cities and countries across the globe, the more we interacted with foreign animals and bacteria, the more epidemics and pandemics such as malaria, smallpox, and influenza began to occur and spread.
Maybe the best known of a deadly pandemic that wreaked havoc on a nation was the Black Plague. The Black Plague occurred in the 1300s and killed over 200 million people. The symptoms that people exhibited with the Black Plague were gruesome, agonizing pain, large black tumors, and mass death. Ironically, the Black Plague led to important scientific and medical discoveries, including a better understanding of our circulatory system and biology through research and autopsies on cadavers.
Now, without these medical discoveries, scientists working on not only a vaccine, but also an understanding of how the virus works against our bodies, the death toll could have been higher. I relate this to our current situation with COVID-19 in terms of scientific discovery. With each new virus or disease our bodies come in contact with, we learn something new and are able to improve modern medicine.
So coming full circle, thanks to our experience with pandemics, we know that density of population, as well as greater man-made pressure on the environment, now play the largest roles in the spreading of diseases. This understanding of how and why a virus spreads is crucial to understanding how to survive and defeat the virus.
So to prevent the second wave, and if there is a second wave, to survive it, we need to listen to our scientific experts and follow the government's restrictions. These rules are in place because we've learned from the past, and we know this is the best way to fight and survive the virus as a society. If you want to survive the virus, then you, like me and Daryl, have to follow the guidelines so that we all come out of this thing healthy.
Which brings us to survival tip number 2, strengthening our immune systems and creating herd immunity. So we're reaching a point in time where victory kind of seems near. Retail stores, bar patios, and golf courses, my favorite, are beginning to open once again. It's hard not to be optimistic when the number of people who are infected seems to be lessening and restrictions are being lifted. Therein lies the problem. We may become too relaxed and not follow the government's rules that are still in effect. There are still many restrictions in place to make sure that we don't expose ourselves to potentially dangerous situations in which we could still be spreading the virus.
So it's our body's job to survive viruses, illnesses, and diseases, and it does so by creating new antibodies to the invading disease within the body. Now, we develop these antibodies from birth, and the more we are around different germs, bacteria, people in general, the more antibodies we create.
Now picture being away from humanity for up to 6 months. We're no longer exposed to foreign bacteria and germs. Our body's immune systems no longer need to create antibodies for invading viruses. Fast forward to flu season. We're now around large groups of people. Our kids are back to school or at daycare, and you're at work around people once again. Imagine the invading germs and new bacteria your body must have to fight off with once more.
So although we're required to keep a distance from large groups, there are other ways in which we can strengthen and maintain our immune systems so that when we do eventually get the all clear to be in large settings again, our bodies will have a better chance to resist the invading diseases. Healthy eating, daily exercise, regular sleep habits, and taking vitamin supplements are some ways in which we can maintain our immune systems.
Keep in mind that you can maintain your health on a daily basis, but there are other ways that can be just as, if not more effective in resisting the virus. One such way is through vaccination. I hope you're not afraid of needles, because this may be our best chance at ridding the world of, or at least making the virus a little bit less of a threat to humanity. It's only a matter of time until a vaccine is developed for COVID-19. And when it is, I hope you, like me, are lined up and ready to get that shot.
But a vaccine is still far off, and it's not even a guarantee. So how do we survive this virus if we don't have it? Well, over time, our society needs to develop herd immunity to the virus.
Now, what is a herd immunity, you ask? Well, during the flu season, and even with COVID-19, there are many people who can actually have the virus but not present symptoms, as well as some who are completely immune altogether. Those who are resistant to symptoms can still spread the virus, but are not themselves impacted by having it. Even better, the ones who are immune can't spread a virus that they aren't catching.
So over time, the goal is to maximize the number of people who have been exposed to and developed immunity for the virus. Eventually, so much of the population, at least 80 to 90%, are resistant to symptoms or immune, which slows the spread of the virus and maybe eventually kills it off. If each of us focuses on improving our immune systems and overall health, we can each contribute to this herd immunity and help our society overcome the virus. If we do get a vaccine before this happens, even better. But by focusing on our individual health, we become more resilient as a whole.
Our last survival tip is to prepare yourself for lockdown 2.0. The government implemented restrictions to socialization in March of 2020. The ultimate goal of the restrictions was to slow the spread of the virus from person to person. So when someone is infected, whether asymptomatic or full-blown COVID-19 symptoms, that person has a capacity to spread the virus anywhere from 1 to 2.5 people on average. Now that it's been 4 months and restrictions are slowly starting to lift, there's a fear hanging over our heads that the virus may return. Doctors and scientists are already warning of a second wave.
Now, there are many consequences if the second wave hits as hard as the first. One is just the mental toll of being forced to barricade ourselves inside our houses and to not socialize. For those of us who are extroverted, the need to socialize is strong. We desire conversation, validation, and friendship on a daily basis. Taking that away from us again will surely play a role in a quick descent to anger, frustration, and just other negative reactions.
For many, losing their jobs to COVID-19 has been one of the most stressful events in their lives. It's quite the conundrum we have. We need to work to survive financially, but we need not to be at work to survive the virus. So for many, being at work is a complete necessity. Yes, the government may subsidize some paychecks and help us out where they can, but at the end of the day, you're used to getting your normal rate of pay, and anything less can really mess up your budget.
So that's why we're suggesting you prepare yourself now. There's a very good chance we get placed in lockdown again. Prepare yourself mentally. Get yourself ready for a return to seclusion. Maybe that means creating a reading list or setting up some kind of regular virtual game night with your friends. Whatever it takes, just get your mind in a place where you can survive another quarantine.
It also means getting your finances in order. Not everyone has this luxury, but if you can pad your savings now, or adjust your spending to create some resilience in your finances ahead of the next lockdown, you may be able to save yourself some financial stress.
Like any survival situation, think ahead of the challenges you might run into and prepare for them now.
Our bonus survival tip is to stay strong. Follow the government's restrictions and be patient. There have been many pandemics throughout our history, and each time we found a way to combat them. Stopping a pandemic can take time, but the scientists and government need us to work together to stop the spread of the virus and bring our world back to a sense of normality. Remember that we're all in this together. If we each can stay strong and do our part, we'll come out of this thing all right.
So just to recap, a second potential wave of COVID-19 is possible, but we're hoping that our 3 survival tips give you some insight if it does happen. Don't forget, there's a long history of pandemics throughout the history of humanity, and with each pandemic, the human race has come back stronger than before. Second, keeping our immune system strong and allowing a herd immunity to develop will greatly lessen the chances of the virus spreading once again. Lastly, if the virus does propagate once more, make sure you're prepared in advance so you can get through the lockdown. And know that you won't be alone in Lockdown 2.0. The entire world, Daryl and I included, will be feeling the same pains and frustrations as you, but for the good of all of us, we've got to get through.
Thank you for taking the time to watch another episode of Survive in Real Life. If you liked it, like it, share, and subscribe. And please come back more for our weekly episodes of Surviving for Real Life.